even though the Hellenistic world, and this word Hellenistic means the Greek-like world, even though this world was much smaller than our world, it was still the globe. So essentially the Hellenistic world is a global society. And this was new. Whereas in the classical Greece that we've been discussing in the 5th century, people lived in the polis, in a small city-state. In the cosmopolitan world of the Hellenistic civilization, that word cosmopolitan means universal city. People lived in enormous metropolises. And moreover, they lived in these enormous metropolises that ringed the Mediterranean. So people were no longer fixed in a particular polis with its identity, with its gods, with their family, with their kin, but they were spread out, often as individuals, all over this Greek-like world. Moreover, this Greek-like world was united through this common language of Greek, so that even though Alexander's conquests had created an empire which couldn't last as a unified entity after his death, and divided into 3 major parts. Each of these 3 major parts was governed by a Greek-speaking ruler and had a Greek-speaking bureaucracy. So that in each of these very different kingdoms, you still had a really similar governmental structure. Moreover, anybody who could speak Greek was welcome and was useful in these places. So in much the same way that English has become the language that you have to speak now in a global culture in order to get a good job, it was the exact same thing in the Greek world. And native Greek speakers, like native English speakers, had an immediate advantage. So there was this exodus, this diaspora of Greeks, diaspora, dispersion is a Greek word, from the Greek mainland. So Greeks were settling all over this world looking for opportunity. That's another really important key thing, is that like our own world, it was a world of incredible mobility. You could be very sure if you went from one place in this Greek-like world to another that you would meet people who spoke Greek, who ate the same kinds of foods, who dressed in the same ways, who had the same kinds of values as you did. But you would also meet people who were exotic, who were foreign, who the Greeks would call barbarians, people who didn't speak Greek. But you would intermingle with these people and you would absorb these exotic influences. So this was wonderful. Some people loved this, but other people were very frightened by it because it meant that all those traditional values that had connected you to the polis were now being disrupted. But of course, it also meant that if you had been a person of no family or with no wealth, in this old Greek world, and you could get to one of these cosmopolitan cities, you could reinvent yourself entirely. You could become an entirely new person with new opportunities. The other thing that was troubling to people was that this Hellenistic world is an incredibly commercialized, materialistic world. So classical Greek values were about simplicity and modesty and modest display, but the Hellenistic world was about stuff and having gaudy things and having beautiful things in your house. And that, again, created a diversity of opinion. What we see happening as a result of this is something that we see today, which is we see a lot of different new religions, self-help philosophies being developed in order to help people deal with and navigate this incredibly new culture, that all the things that you thought were true in your old world turn out to be open to debate. We have cultural relativism, and we have to find new ways to think about this. And the old religion didn't help, and so we have new philosophies like Stoicism and Epicureanism, and these are things that help us to make sense of our world in a new way.